Joining us now, running for House of Delegates, Republican, trying to flip the seat back to Republican leadership. Lara, able to have you with us.
Thank
Lara.
you. Good morning.
So, this seat is flipped. Robin Abbott had it. Then, of course, it goes all the way back to, obviously, our friend right now who's in federal prison in New Jersey. So this seat's got quite the legacy behind it. Then Robin Abbott won it. Then Mike Watson won it. Then Monty Mason won it. So it seems to be the musical chairs seat of Virginia. How do you upset Monty Mason here?
Well, I think Mike struggled in just a few ways in the election 2 years ago. He had a hard time with the Newport News vote, the women's vote, and the college vote. And it just so happens that I am a woman from Newport News that went to William and Mary. And so we feel that I have all of the pieces to make this, to win this election and to be able to keep this seat for several years so that I can be effective and get things done for this district.
When you say, Lara, when you say get effective and get things done, do you think Mason has been effective?
I do. My opponent has not passed a single piece of legislation. He's been in for 2 years, and not a single bill has been passed on important things like jobs and education and transportation. But not only did he not pass a single bill, he supports things or opposes bills that I would have supported. And we really need a delegate that's going to fight hard for the best interests of all the citizens on the peninsula.
When you say fight hard for all the best interests, look, Monty is in the super minority, right? Right now there's the Republican leadership advantage is 67-33. So if you're a Democrat in the House, honestly, Lara, you really can't get anything done, right?
Well, that's not true. Every single delegate, with the exception of my opponent and the other delegate that spent half of his time in jail, every other Democrat and Republican delegate got something passed. They were able to accomplish something in their time. And my opponent is the only one who's not been able to do it other than one that was spending time in jail. That tells me that he hasn't figured out how to work across the aisle, hasn't figured out how to build relationships and make connections so that he can be effective. And I have spent the last 20 years in volunteer roles, working in small business and in higher education, and I have very strong relationships through my workforce development partners, and I know that I can be most effective at working with the majority in the House, but also working in my community to represent my citizens in the best way.
Okay, Lara, so give us a couple of examples of some key policy differences that you're going to try to take home that Monty Mason, in your view, is either not going to be able to do or on the other side of the issue.
Sure. Well, my background working in the community college system has allowed me to really understand workforce development and the needs on the peninsula. And while we have governors and presidents that are all talking about the importance of workforce development, we don't have people who understand it as intricately as I do. I see we have a development triangle, is what I call it, that doesn't really connect. We have businesses that are crying for skilled workers and for more trained employees to come into their businesses. We have the colleges that need investments so that they can upgrade their equipment and their instructors and they can and their curriculum. And then we have an issue of creating a pipeline of students to go into these workforce training programs. I think we need to retrain middle and high school counselors so they understand career pathways so that we can get students into these different opportunities. It was a real shame 20 years ago we took trade and technical training out of the high schools, and now we don't have a pipeline of students going into those programs. So we've got to do a better job in Virginia, particularly on the peninsula with the downsizing of the military and the recent layoffs announced at the shipyard, of figuring out how we're going to retrain people and get them into these jobs. We also want to be more attractive for businesses to come to this area. And if we don't have a pipeline of skilled workers, we're not going to attract those businesses. I can be effective because I understand these challenges, and that's what I have been focused on for the last 5 years of my career, is raising support for workforce training programs. So I feel I can be more effective. You asked what we're different, what makes us different. Aside from our experience, my opponent is supported by the teacher unions. And just this past year, he voted against several very important pieces of legislation, like charter schools and virtual schools and computer science as a science graduation requirement. And I just think we need to support our schools that are trying to offer innovative technology and training for the 21st century. We shouldn't stay in the last century. We need to move forward.
Here's my question. If you were on a debate stage with Mason, what would be the number one question you would ask him?
I would ask him if zero is enough. He's passed zero legislation. He's done nothing for our district. And I want to know, what is he going to be able to do this time that he didn't accomplish the last 2 years?
Well, he kind of says like him and his wife are the new power couple of the area. How do you respond to that?
Well, that's just ridiculous. There are a lot of very accomplished, very, very hardworking, very community-minded individuals in Williamsburg, and to assume or presume that you're a power couple, in my opinion, is just ridiculous, and it's an embarrassment, quite frankly.
Okay, let's go to Medicaid expansion. Obviously, you're not for expanding Medicaid in Virginia, but Lara, one of the things that you guys are going to have to grapple with, whether it's you or Monty in there, is absent of expanding Medicaid in Virginia, rural hospitals in the state are running out of money. They're closing. Services are being shut down. They can't operate. They have a financial gap that is widening. If you get to the House of Delegates, what are you going to do to solve that?
Well, I've talked with several hospital leaders in our community about this issue, and one of the things I learned just when talking with one of the local hospital presidents is he said a major problem that they have with their patients is transportation to medical facilities to receive well and sick care, and the burden on the hospitals to provide ambulatory care for these patients is extremely high. And so there are other ways that we can save to help the hospitals so that they have more resources to provide the care for those that are critically in need of critical care. I also think am very supportive of free clinics like Lackey and Old Town Medical, which are both in my community. And in fact, my mom's a volunteer at one of those as a volunteer nurse. And I very much feel like we need to encourage public and private partnerships for these clinics so that they have more opportunities to serve patients that need that care. At Lackey Clinic, they do an amazing job of providing care at the best levels, and they do it with love and compassion and with dignity. And I think those patients really appreciate that kind of service.
Right. Well, that definitely is helpful for some of the people there. But what are you going to do for these hospitals in rural Virginia that are simply going broke?
Well, I think we need to be creative, and we need to come up with ideas of providing them with the resources that they need. But expanding Medicaid isn't the solution. The problem with expanding Medicaid for Virginia is we don't have a way to pay for it. And we don't, while the federal government says that they're going to provide us funding, there's no guarantee that that funding is going to be there. And we don't need to put this burden on the backs of taxpayers.
Okay, that's going to be the final word. We want to thank Lara Overy for being with us. Lara, people want more info on your candidacy. Where do they go?
Sure. My name is spelled Lara, Lara, the number 4va.com.
All right, the number 4va.com. And you've told me that you've knocked on, what is it? You've personally knocked on about 5,000 doors?
About 4,500 doors personally. The campaign has done quite a few more than that, and we've been very strong, and things are looking great for us. We're real excited about the future.
When you're out talking to people, and you go into their living room or their kitchen table, Lara, what are they saying?
Well, they talk about the struggles that they have as, middle class, and I just explained my story, having come from a once single mom that worked 2 jobs to put herself through community college, and I understand what it means to struggle and to have to provide for my family, and let them know that I'm going to be a servant for them in Richmond. I'm going to represent them well and have their best interests at heart.
All right, that's going to be the final word. You want to thank Lara Overy for joining us. We'll have you back on, and